Alright everyone, see, I'm recording now. I'm making this video to do a bit of like a code review. I've been playing around with Docker for a bit. I bought like a $15 course on Udemy, went through that and learned a lot, but now I'm trying to implement it in some of my development practices. So I've been pretty much trying to make a development environment with Docker that implements Node and Mongo. I had a project that was like a React app built with like Webpack, and I actually have that right here. There's a lot going on, and I implemented Docker kind of willy-nilly, and I ran into a lot of issues with volumes, and so then I've redone it a couple times, and this time I just wanted to kind of record what I learned and where I learned it. So one of the big issues I was running into with Dockering this project and the way that I use Docker here in the Docker Compose was with the Node modules folder. One of the things that's really important about, in my opinion, about using Docker with like an npm project is that you don't want to need to have the Node modules project on locally in the local environment, because it's a lot going on. As you can see, these are all of the dependencies that are required by the project that are listed in the package. So as you can see, I've got like dev dependencies and dependencies here that kind of tell the package manager what to put together in the dependencies, so that when we develop it, it's all working. So what I was running into is I was deleting the Node modules folder locally, and then when I would try to run it in the container, it would all my dependencies were gone, and this was really frustrating. I was coding for like a few hours at that time, and so I just kind of took some time back and did some thinking, and I think the issue I ran into, this is the project that's got a lot going on, is in the volumes. I was mapping the entire project folder, all of this, to the app, the working directory, which is right here, the /app working directory. So pretty much what was happening was when I deleted the Node modules, I was also deleting it in the container. And I didn't really realize it at the time, because what I was doing is here, I'll pull this over. I was doing like my Docker Compose up, like that, and then coming into another terminal, and doing a Docker container. What was this? This one is web, right? No, this one's Node Mongo. No, it's exec interactive Node Mongo Web 1, and that. Container. Oh, is it not running yet? Container X options. Oh, I need to run bash. That's right. Okay, there we go. And I would just run npm install, and it was really frustrating because when I would do that, it would also, since it's linked between the container here and the project folder, it would add the Node modules, which was completely against what I was trying to achieve, right? So here, I'll close this one, and I'll just start showing the code in this. We've got our Docker file. Can kind of talk about what it's doing real quick. So we're starting out from Node, and we create the working directory. And then we go ahead, and because this is kind of development, we just run an npm install of nodemon. And then to get all of our npm dependencies, we just copy the package by itself right here, which only has a couple dependencies, Express and Mongoose, because I just wanted this to be about working with Docker, because if I can get that down, then it'll be really easy to take kind of these base Docker files and just kind of port them over. So, you know, what was happening is I was making a volume between the whole project folder, and so what I've done is kind of taken each kind of concern, like the servers, like I've got my server right here, and it's kind of doing a little bit of stuff. I've got a little database that I'm running. It initializes. We got a hello world route, and we've got a kitty schema we're running, and this just adds a random one and then finds it and sends it to the browser. It's not doing anything really, but it just kind of shows that Mongo is running. So I have then, instead of doing a copy here, if I can just bring this down here to show the difference, instead of copying the whole project folder, I'm copying each kind of sub app of the application into its own folder, and then we expose the port again. So then going into the Docker Compose, this is only showing, for development, it's nice to have volumes on these folders so that when you're making changes, for instance, like here, I'll pull up my browser. Localhost 300 is our hello world, right? So if we go into the server, we can change this to another face, and then boom, it's different. We're doing live editing because we have NodeMon running. If we look at the Docker Compose, when it starts up, once it builds all the services, it runs NodeMon on that server file, which will kind of build the whole server, which is really neat. So then, for instance, I can just kind of live edit this. Well, here, one sec. Undo all that and show that we're not really how can I do this? Well, for instance, what we would do to just like make these other files is just map the React to their own folders. We'll do the same with the database. So the database file in locally will go to the container file at app/database. So yeah, it was really that simple. So yeah, I guess the main takeaway from this is that you don't want to, in your Docker Compose files, when you're mapping volumes, you don't want to do something like this, because this is a little bit of like too much of a it's doing too much. You don't need everything in your folder, so it's definitely something to keep in mind when you're building these files, to make sure you're not kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, I guess, if that's the proper way of using that phrase. So yeah, so with this, it'll be a lot easier to add more dependencies. We can start adding like a React or pretty much anything else, and it's really that easy of just writing this little file here with the database service with the image, and you map the ports like that, and you have to link it, of course. And yeah, and here I'll go ahead and show. We do a test find, and I already have it running, so it adds another kitty, right? These are just like the random IDs that are assigned to a random kitty. It doesn't really mean anything, but we refresh and it adds another. Well, yeah, so we can just keep refreshing and it keeps adding. So we can start building actual routes on the server to make something really useful. So yeah, it's really that simple. And like I said, if you ever have issues where like with the architecture of your Docker project, I guess, just keep in mind that you want to really separate out these concerns and the volumes. You don't want to map your whole project folder, because then you're kind of just cloning your project folder directly into the container, and you don't want to do that. It completely defeats the purpose of the Docker file doing npm install. That was what was really frustrating, because it felt like it wasn't running npm install when clearly it was. And I had probably brought down the project like 50 times before I figured this out. So hopefully this helps you learn from this mistake, and maybe helps explain it. I really just wanted to make a quick recording to really log this, I guess. I just maybe just for my sake, but if you're watching and you find this helpful, just let me know. Alright, thanks for watching.